Back in July 2020, the world was in lockdown at the time, and the travel industry was just bleeding out. You buy back your travel company during COVID. Was this brilliant or insane?
And as soon as we done it and bought it back, we're talking to our wives and we're like, shit, are we crazy?
David Fastuca, a revenue growth master. He sold Locomote, a full-service corporate travel agency for 8 figures. When the COVID pandemic hit and the entire travel industry shut down, he bought his company back anyway and built a $150 million pipeline from nothing. After selling it again to Webjet, he's making another bet with Coach Pilot.
For a guy that's done $75 million worth of exits, you've been through a world of COVID where you made some big successes happen. What you're working on right now?
So what we're working on right this minute, it's a business called Coach Pilot, and basically it's an AI sales brain that lives inside your environment, whether you use ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot, and it acts as a world-class sales assistant that your team can use 24/7. It's built upon your winning patterns. It understands your customers, where you win, where you lose, your industry, your brand, your tone, everything.
What are some of the results that you've started seeing?
Coach Pilot can help bring a mid-sales person from maybe 50-60% of their KPI, bring them up to hitting their KPI. Because now they get that guidance on tap whenever they're stuck. They don't have to go to a manager or wait for a sales coach. They get prescribed the best next steps based on their company's winning patterns.
How are you going to know when you're kind of on track, and are you building to exit at some point?
Look, I think...
David, welcome to Flow Zone.
It's a pleasure to be here.
It is a pleasure to have you here, man. I read up a little bit about you because your name had come up a couple of times. And, for a guy that's done $75 million worth of exits, you've been through a world of COVID where you made some big successes happen, and you've also sort of pivoted a number of times, and there's this constant thread through the middle of it. So can you just give us a quick rundown, what your kind of thing is you're working on right now so the audience can get a bit of a feel? We've got a lot of entrepreneurs here, and then we'll dive right into understanding a bit more about where you're going.
Definitely. So what we're working on right this minute, it's a business called coachpilot.com. And basically it's an AI sales brain that lives inside your LLM environment. So whether you use ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot, and it acts as a world-class sales assistant that your team can use 24/7. It's built upon your winning patterns. It understands your customers, where you win, where you lose, your industry, your brand, your tone, everything. So your team can actually put in a bit of let's call it a rubbish prompt in there.
Yeah.
And then we've got the algorithm inside of our product that will then match it up against a world-class prompt to then deliver your team a world-class result, so then they can spend more time closing more deals and less time on the manual and admin side.
That makes a lot of sense, and you've articulated that quite well. It's pretty clear that you've been really thinking about this for a while.
It's a big problem in this space, and again, it takes it down to again, a little bit of a snippet of messaging, right? So one of the things where I reckon I've failed a few times in the past is being able to articulate and message what it is that we do from a product or service perspective so that it actually resonates. And that comes down to a lot. Whether your product or service is going to be successful or not is how well can you articulate it and communicate it and do that en masse.
Well, I 100% agree. I've got a white label company that does B2B2C for real estate, and it's an operating system, basically. And because we were solving 2 or 3 major problems, we were leading with the problems we were solving, which was agent loyalty, moving on to other brands because they don't feel that there's more growth available to them, rent roll churn, which is the property management investment side, and they sort of, bleed out of the rent roll for no good reason, and client acquisition at a company level.
Yeah.
But to answer the question holistically, when someone goes, what's that business do? It takes a lot of refinement to get it to that.
Yeah.
And that's not even what it ended up, but that's how complicated it was trying to spit it out. So it didn't really work very well for podcasts when I was getting asked.
You could freeze, you could freeze, and then you can sort of play it down because you're just trying to get a simple answer out.
Yeah.
But it does take a bit of practice to get there. But once it resonates and you see the eyes of the person you talk to go, you're like, yeah, I got it.
Yes, yeah. So look, I suppose great ideas like this, they don't just come out of nowhere. You've actually been solving for your own problems in business and then for others. Now, some of you all know that you've come from the travel industry, corporate travel.
Yeah.
And back in July 2020, the world was in lockdown at the time, and the travel industry was just bleeding out. Especially, people that are trying to move people around places that are completely locked down. You buy back your travel company during COVID. You went and bought it back during COVID. Was this brilliant or insane, do you think, on reflection? And what did you see that everyone else missed at that time?
Well, look, if you're answering the question today, you go, oh, genius. 'Cause, like, we just, the team recently sold it to Webjet. It's all public knowledge and everything out in the marketplace. At the time, when I say we, my cousin and I, Ross, we had a conviction that we believe at that time that the travel industry still had room to adopt the platform that we're building. That one, we had unfinished business because upon our first exit, while yes, it was successful, it didn't hit the heights that we had originally planned. Right? Everyone wants to build a multi-billion-dollar company, in that tech sort of space, and obviously we didn't get there. So we're like, when do you get a second bite at the cherry? Very risky as well because obviously it was COVID, and we're talking like sort of that early to mid time where you didn't really know how long was it going to be coming out of COVID. Will people travel as much? Will we ever go back to 2019 sort of levels? What is that appetite? So we had to put a hypothesis together. But at the time, we're like, there's an opportunity to buy back this company, obviously at a really great price. We were doing a few different things. Ross had a couple of projects he was working on. I had some as well, but we're never really all in on anything. And we sort of had that, desire where, if we got the second chance, can we actually make it bigger than the first time? And our assumptions right, and it was we had a bit of edge, to us, a bit of a chip in our block to say, well, can we do it again?
Yeah.
And we just bit the bullet. And as soon as we'd done it and bought it back, we're talking to our wives and we're like, shit, are we crazy? Because obviously we had another year and a half of COVID, so we had the product.
Yeah.
Couldn't sell it.
Yeah.
Or, well, we did, but we couldn't make revenue because no one was actually traveling. It was all just burn because then we brought back some of our engineers. And at that time, Ross and I were self-funding it.
Yeah.
So it was a big, play. Big play.
Well, yeah, definitely a big play. Like most people would have run away at that stage. Like you've sold the company, you got out in front. And now, so that's what we're talking about here is Locomote, right? That's what it was called, your travel company.
Yeah, Locomote.com. If you go to it now, you see it's already rebranded.
So they didn't muck around.
Nah.
So Travelport bought it off you then,
Yep.
and they're a big listed entity.
Yep, they were at the time. They got delisted during that time.
Yeah.
CEO changes, all that sort of fun stuff. It was a really good and interesting process to see what it's like to be acquired and go through that process of a listed company, what they see, internally, because we were quite close with the C-suite, with the CFO, the CEO. So it's like you can't go to school or do a degree on learning this stuff, right? Like this was in the fire, in the seat right now of going through that process and seeing what they actually care about. It was a great experience.
What was something surprising about what they saw that you had unlocked when you sold to a public company like that?
So Travelport?
Yeah.
So the way the travel industry works is that there's three major players, and they're called a GDS, acronym for Global Distribution Service. I won't bore with the basics on that, but Travelport was the only one of the big three that didn't have a tool like Locomote. The two other competitors had their own tools that they built in. So for them, it was a natural thing where, okay, great, we can go off and build this ourselves and take X amount of time and dollars, or acquire this group from Melbourne and bolt it on and go from there. So it just made complete sense from their perspective. I guess the big surprise was even, they had a massive footprint, like they had tens of thousands of travel agents around the world that we could potentially tap into and sell. Like we thought, oh, shit, we're onto $1 billion company now. Like with that marketplace and that reach, even if a small percentage of them went out and sold what it is we had, happy day.
The SaaS product,
the SaaS product,
yeah.
The platform that we built. But the reality didn't turn out that way for various amount of reasons, and for nothing that we can really foresee, because everything just pointed down where it's a home run. But life's not like that all the time.
So Locomote ended up sort of one of the things on the chopping board when Travelport Travelport was like consolidating, I suppose, and going back to delist eventually.
Yeah, exactly. So the management team obviously changed. CEO moved out. Private equity came in, and then they made the right decision for themselves to focus on their core offering and to basically divest anything that's not relevant to the core. They had some amazing businesses in there that were just killing it from a revenue perspective and profitability. But they made the right decision for themselves at the time to really focus in on that. And so I don't know how many. I think there's around 7 or 10 sort of products or entities, businesses that were on market to be moved or split out into their own. And Locomote was one of them. And that's thankfully at the time we still knew people that were running the business at the time, and they tapped onto our shoulder and said, "Hey, would you be interested in looking at the business?" Because they still had customers going through it, and Travelport wanted to do the right thing by looking after those customers that they had on there. So it was a good situation. At the time when they went out to market, there was probably about 5 interested parties that wanting to buy it. As each week went on, all of a sudden what's happening in China became closer to home. And then it was a span over about 12 weeks from our first discussion where there was 5 of us in, bidding for it.
Yes.
To the point where it was just Ross and I.
Yeah, well, it looks like that. March 2020, like it was March 2020 that I feel like the news hit me the most. I was in Thailand at the time. I heard Trump was closing borders.
Yep.
And I had 2 days to go on this charity thing I was on, but I'd done the obligation part. It was all just celebration after that. And I just rang my EA while I was still on this charity ride, like in the middle of the bush in Thailand, if you call it bush, and just said, "Get me on the next flight." And she's like, "Well, that's to get back to Bangkok. There's an internal flight and then there's an external flight." And I'm like, "Can I just fly from here?" And I could, but I could only come to Melbourne or Brisbane. And I was living in Newcastle at the time. I was like, "Sweet, I've got luggage in Melbourne because I stay here a lot." Did back then, now I live here. And so I came back here and it was like World War III. It was like Armageddon, hey. I was hanging out with a lot of hospitality people because I knew a few venue owners. And they're like drinking like there's a ship sinking. Like as in we're all gonna die, career's over. So what's going through your mind to buy a travel company back at that stage? What were the cents on the dollar actually? I might start with that.
It was a great, look, if you think about the industries that got hit during that time, and I got a few mates in the hospitality and they copped it well, right? And you think about travel. So travel obviously stopped instant.
Yeah.
Then the way the travel industry works, sometimes people pay in advance. So now you're having to give money back. So the revenue that you had potentially accrued for, banked on, you're now going in arrears with it. Yeah. So I'd argue with it, not from an instant, for being rude or anything, that it was probably the worst hit industry. One of the worst hit industries in the world.
It wouldn't be far off.
Yeah. Right. You stop revenue and you're having to dig into the revenue that you have to give back. For us, it was more of a, if we get the business back, right, we've got an amazing asset here that had a lot of effort and money put into. Let's, we just go, what's the worst case scenario? Worst case scenario is we just got to keep the lights on. Obviously, there's no support questions coming through because no one's using it. Let's just keep the lights on, do the right thing by the customers, and then hopefully maybe we could just flip it quickly after, once COVID eases off, whenever that might be. And obviously the challenge there was that whoever's going to buy it obviously got their own issues because they're in the travel industry and because it's only relative to that space. So there was going to have to be some time there before any of those sort of had the funds to potentially purchase it. Again, obviously looking back now, then I'll never forget it. Ross and I just looked at each other and went, you know what? And we've made many decisions like this. We just looked at each other and went, stuff it. Let's just do it ourselves. Let's just go again, right? I'm just going to try and you just focus on obviously making sure the product is good and get some of our original crew back and start working on building up the product again. I'll just go through the mess that is the CRM because I haven't looked at it obviously for 2 years. See what's in there, and I'll just try and revive deals and potentially go and just try and get, just speak to people to see, can we build a pipeline coming out of travel where, then we can start the hockey stick out of it, hopefully. And we'll just focus on that.
So that was like the first 90 days. You're like, we need to build a sales pipeline.
Yeah, we wanted to build confidence in ourselves where, okay, we didn't make the wrong decision. Two, we wanted to build a narrative around, well, we need to go out and get investment because, it's a capital intensive company. So we need to go out and get capital. So what would help with that story is that, hey, we've been speaking to our ICP, which at the time was CFOs, and, we've signed contracts with these people, that they're going to use us. They're going to, it was a good time to migrate. So if they're on a competitor, what a better time to migrate when you're not traveling. That there's capacity there to do so.
So which competitor would they have likely been with?
Oh, there's a bunch. There was, the CTM is one. Flight Centre have got like a corporate arm within their network, and then there's be a lot of probably independent small players.
Yeah.
We led in with the angle of coming out of COVID. Our platform has a lot of compliance and checks, and we've done a bit of additional development to bring in a lot of COVID risk ratings and things like that.
Yeah.
So we said, like, what would typically be something that a big corporate would want? Previous to COVID, it was a lot of risk and compliance. To now, where even if you're a little startup and you've got your team traveling, now you need that coming out of it. So if anything, having the product at that stage that it was, when we had it in its prime, was good for companies that would put in mid-tier to enterprise, which now we can go downscale to smaller businesses and approach them to get them on there. So there was like a bit of an SME play.
Okay. Hey, if you're getting value from these conversations, the best way to support the show is to follow, subscribe, and leave a rating. It helps more people discover the podcast and allows me to keep making these episodes packed with value. Thanks so much in advance. Well, it seems like you've definitely been courageous, but you saw a gap there that the others would have been probably running for the hills. So, but how do you pitch travel to whether it's CEOs, CFOs, or small business founders when no one's traveling?
Well, this was it, this was the challenge, right? So Ross and I had many conversations around how would we go by this, and this is where sort of Luigi comes into the conversation, where I said to Ross, I'm just going to get Louis to try and help me and guide me here on how do I basically sell ice to Eskimos right now. So the thing where we want to do it ethically, if I can say the right word, and in the right way. So Luigi came in and goes, look, let's look at reframing, what it is that you're selling. Initially, we went in and it was all about, pre-COVID, it was about cost saving, efficiency gains, and all that sort of fun stuff. Coming out of COVID, the issues are different. It's going to be about compliance and risk and duty of care. So we then changed our messaging. I then just got on. It was probably one of the greatest times to do cold calling because everyone was answering their phone.
They were, weren't they?
Yeah. I'll never forget it. I think I closed the deal on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
People were working up to Christmas Eve, and then Jan 2nd, people were back at it because you obviously weren't on holidays. And the narrative was simply around, are you prepared, for when COVID eases to let your team start traveling again? If you haven't thought about it, we've got everything that you need to think of and within our platform. And all I need is 15 minutes of your time just to show you. And if it's something that, resonates, and if you're thinking about letting your team travel again once it eases, this is going to tick all your boxes. Right? That message there then was able to get me time with those right people to then earn the right to get to the next meeting and then the following meeting. So it was just about hitting a pain point that they probably haven't thought of yet. But then being a CFO, they're always thinking into the future and, avoiding risk. So this was something that was like, okay, cool. They can rip up contracts because at that time then everyone was ripping up contracts for different things. And that narrative there just really helped with us, as well as our original vision of where we wanted to take the product and do with it. We hadn't lost that sort of feel to what we wanted to do.
Yeah. Oh, that's really quite clever. And you think about that pain point I haven't thought about. This is one of the things that goes missing in company offers, sales processes, marketing messaging.
Yeah.
So many companies are sitting there waiting to catch a ball as if it's just going to be served up to them. And it's just like, oh, of course you need a chiropractor. Of course you need a travel agent. Of course you need a SaaS platform. But they're talking really to the people that are in that final decision phase, like that they haven't been through the pain unaware, pain aware, researching, buying.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you're able to create a whole new category there of pain unawareness and make them aware of that so that you can sort of daisy chain them straight through towards a solution when others were probably thinking, geez, I wonder what we're going to do when this all opens up again.
Well, that's it. And it wasn't always like rainbows when I was doing the calls. There'll be times where I was just on a purple patch and I was like, everyone is liking this. I'm I got like a high pickup rate with cold calling, and then I was just missing internal meetings and go, just leave me alone for the day because I'm just on a heater.
Yeah.
And then there'll be times where I just get told to get stuffed for the whole day, and I had no successful, efforts within a week. It was just ups and downs, but throughout all of the years and ventures that we've been part of, we've got pretty resilient in that time, which is, again, as a founder, you need to build that thick skin. You get a lot of no's.
Yes.
In no matter what you're doing, whether you're raising funds or selling what it is that you're selling, you just got to build that sort of that thickness around you where it's like, okay, cool. Maybe it was me and my messaging. Maybe it's not the right time for them. Maybe it didn't resonate. And then go back to the drawing board and then go again.
Yeah, I think it was a really good time for reinvention, rediscovery of like what one's purpose is or what direction they want to go in. So yeah, well done on taking the opportunity there. I'd like to get into the numbers about how this worked out. We've got a lot of entrepreneurs here. A lot of people are building towards an exit, or maybe they've made one and they're thinking about going back and doing what you've done and doing it a second time. So if it's not too sensitive to talk about, what sort of cents on the dollar did you buy this company back at?
Yeah, I think I've got to be careful there on that component there. So we let's just say we bought it back really cheap. Yeah. Like a too good to say no type of offer.
Yeah.
And then obviously the sale event, that's all public knowledge.
Yeah.
That Webjet posted out, which I believe was, from memory, something like 17 mil, with obviously the team that are still there. So my cousin's still leading the team. A lot of the individuals, like the key personnel, good mate Taz, the CTO Mario, are all part of the company because great and skillful bunch of guys, and they've got obviously some KPIs and things like that to hit. But
so they're on an earn out at the moment, are they?
It all varies depending on the individual.
Yeah.
But like my cousin Ross, he loved the space. Like it's almost that old rule of 10,000 hours to become something. I've never seen someone just go so deep in an industry and just really sink his teeth into it. Like he really did grab it with both hands. So I tip my hat off to him with that because he just, as a CEO of Locomote, there probably could be no one better to lead that business. Like my role was more, I was CMO and pretty much led sales for a period of time until I exited. And then they got other individuals involved in there to take over the mantle. Like without him and his stewardship and the team there, it wouldn't have got to where they got to.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I picked up on what you've said there. You were CMO, but you led up sales.
You wear many hats as a founder, right?
I know. I actually like that. I really feel like a lot of businesses that have sales as part of their DNA, they rely on just sales. Whereas really, I feel like probably more that CRO in a revenue sense with the R.
Yeah.
That marketing kind of creates the opportunity for the sale, and most of the messaging you're hoping your salespeople are saying, but the sales is really filling in the blanks and continuing that marketing message.
Yeah, it could be really simple. Yeah, marketing's role should be to make sales easier.
Yes,
right. Simple as that. Big advocate for the CRO type role, and I think more companies will start to advocate that way and push towards that, and not maybe having like a CMO reporting to CRO, but it all needs to become one revenue unit, with the same economics, with the same goals. So you're not having, the marketing team saying, I'm hitting my KPIs, and then the sales team saying, well, I'm getting poor leads and so forth. It needs to be one goal that drives them, so they both are driving towards the same goal. Otherwise, whenever that friction comes in place, whenever those sort of KPIs differ from each other, I've never seen it work out well.
Yeah, same. Marketing's blaming sales. Oh, we're getting you the leads. Your guys aren't closing them. The sales people are like, these people are frozen cold. They're not returning calls. You're burning my time.
When you change the goalpost and it's like, okay, maybe it's a revenue figure, right? So then, okay, well, marketing's going to think about, well, what's going to get us closer to that revenue figure? Is it, maybe I'm not going to do this podcast. I'm going to do an event because that's going to drive more lead flow. Like the ideas and the decisions change because now it's all about that one goal. Then I'm going to talk to sales. How are those leads? Are they closing? No, shit. Okay, well, if we don't hit this goal, we don't get the whatever it is we're incentivized to get as a unit. But if my unit is just bringing top of funnel 50 leads a week, I ain't going to, like, most times they ain't going to care on the quality. It's just I'm going to hit that number of 50 leads. Then sales, it's your problem now to convert.
I've definitely found that with the a solution we had called Propel in our white label company called Nexar, where we're going into big real estate companies, like ones that have got 20 plus offices, and they've got over 1 million leads in their database. And they're usually just previous buyer inquiry that's made an inquiry. What's the price guide? Can I see it? But then the agent hasn't really followed them up. In Australia, sell side real estate doesn't really put a lot of emphasis yet on the buyer side, but it's coming. And we would go in, we'd be outreaching to these people, lead scoring them, making human phone calls, getting them on, to a nice kind of level where they're now ready to engage with someone. And you've got the callers, they're trying to hit their KPI and they're trying to hand it over, but then the salespeople are getting it, and if it's not red hot and ready to sign, then they're not doing the steps in between. So you had the callers there just hitting their quota, thinking, I'm a hero. You got salespeople over here saying, you guys are crap. And there's this little bridge in the middle that if they had just been working together, like 90% of them would have turned into deals.
100%. 100%.
Anyway, so what do you think most founders suck at sales?
Look, I think that's a very generalized statement. But look, depending on the type of founder, typically you find a founder is they're scratching an itch or they see a problem and they go into product build mode. And I'd argue that that is a very safe zone to be in because you're building. I can take my time or I can go as fast as I want, but I'm not having to put myself out there and go out to market and sell and get the feedback that I maybe don't want to hear, right? That my idea is shit and no one wants to take it on. So I got this, it's not my saying, but it's something that I reiterate a lot to people, is that first time founders primarily focus on product. Second time founders focus on distribution, right? Because we're getting this now where we're going through a raise with Coach Pilot. We're like, some of the feedback is, it's a very saturated market. How are you going to carve out a space? And I'm like, it depends on how you look at that. I'll look at that as, great, the market's validated. Okay, great. Now, if you look at, pizza shops, this and that, there's thousands of other opportunities and all make their own. There's never going to be one player that has 80% of the marketplace. There might be that one in one industry.
Yeah.
But in technology, you look at CRMs, if I can bring it back to home, what everyone understands, right? There are thousands of CRMs out in the marketplace. People think about your big ones, like your Salesforce, your HubSpot. But, doing what I do, I see a new CRM pop out every week. And I've seen some that people don't even heard of that are valued over $1 billion that are killing it, right? Because their differentiation is they're going after a certain market. They might have less features than the big ones and people adopt it better. So there's different ways of being able to decide on what you're going to build and focusing on that. So I guess the distribution part of it is that while we're bullish on what we're doing now, is that we've got a go-to-market team which are I put up against any in the country, if not across the globe, because they're just excellent at what they do. And we know that the product what we're building can be built because you can pretty much build almost anything these days with enough time and capital. So for us, it's more of we've got the distribution pretty much down pat. Now we're building on the product. And the proof is now in the pudding where we've got paying beta customers that are willing to pay for a product that in its early stage to be on that journey with us, which is great because now we're going to look after those beta customers for life.
Yeah, so this is a fascinating transition because you've had a coaching community running for a fair while. And in the process of then going in, selling Locomote, buying it back, putting $150 million of sales into the pipeline, upping the valuation, having another exit, you've just double proven your own system.
Yep.
So you've been in there coaching in the growth?
You go growth forum.
Yeah. So you've been in there coaching on the growth side, and you've gone, now look, we're building a product that's got all of this in it. So you're going to get to come over onto that product. Talk us through how that's worked.
Yeah. So what we saw within Growth Forum is that teams will come in because they were lacking a skill or wanting to upskill. They would stay in the product for they'll stay in the community for a year, 2 years. We've had some for 3+. And then some would churn out because they're like, we believe that we've got to the level that we're at, and now we're ready to go on our way, which is cool. And I remember sitting down with Louis and we're like, years ago, we spoke about, it would be great to have something that is always with a seller for the life of their journey, right? And would get smarter and smarter the more and more they used it. So that sort of led us to build what we're building now within Coach Pilot. And obviously AI has come a long way between, 4 years ago and now, and
Oh,
it's
yeah,
changing
it's huge.
weekly, like it's insane. So we're like, well, how can we build a product that, one, is not something that forces a individual to change their habits, rather than something that, you know, is a habit forming product and lives within the environment that they already work. So it becomes second nature, and that they'll use it daily, because you can build an amazing product. The hurdles of getting someone to use and adopt a product, to then remember your product, to then come back to use your product, they are all micro businesses, you know, within itself, and massive issues. Even in Locomote days, like, we could sign a customer up, but then there's nothing saying that you had, like, especially for the SME, the bigger corporates would, you know, stick to their policy and would do the right things. For a smaller SME, there was nothing stopping them from going to a, you know, Qantas Direct and booking a flight rather than going into Locomote. So it was hard to drive that sort of habit. So we're just trying to take all those lessons that we learned, you know, for those in the Growth Forum community that wish to, you know, stick, you know, on board with us and then come into the Coach Pilot world, they'll get obviously the benefit of, you know, that sort of foundations status and early sort of pricing, and then we'll be along with us for the journey. I'm a big believer of anyone that is willing to bet on us and join us in the early stages, that they get looked after for as long as they decide to stay with us. And we're lucky enough to build that advocacy and got some great customers that believe in what we do.
Really great transition there. So I suppose you built the credibility up, and Growth Forum is like the full coaching community. So there's like hundreds of members in there already, right?
Yep.
And they've been paying members.
Yep.
And so now they're going to get first dibs on the new stack.
Yep.
There's trust they're already built. Where do you want to take this to? What do you want this whole thing to look like when you've got all of those guys on it? How many people can fit onto this platform?
Oh, look, the beautiful thing with tech, obviously it's infinitely scalable, so it can go beyond, you know, how much time we've got to onboard customers. So from that angle there, like, I've always had the belief that we've got, you know, a big business in us, like an idea. The founding team within Coach Pilots, you know, have got that belief that this could be something that can scale quite rapidly. One, there's a real market need. We're talking with big brands from banks to other financial institutions to insurance brokers, like, to quote unquote the non-sexy sort of customers. You know, typically someone builds a product and goes straight after tech because that's the glossy one. But we want to serve an underserved market and really give them, you know, the tooling and the care factor that, you know, the tech industry has received over the last decade, and help them, you know, bring up the AI knowledge and the intel, and help bring up the personnel within their team. Because we believe that, and what we're seeing is that Coach Pilot can help bring a mid player, like a mid salesperson, from like maybe 50, 60% of their KPI, to bring them up to hitting the KPI. Because now they get that guidance on tap whenever they're stuck. They don't have to go to a manager or wait for a sales coach or wait for guidance or look within a wiki and unsure what to do next. They get prescribed the best next steps based on their company's winning patterns, and then it enables them and gives them the confidence to go do more of that.
That's pretty incredible uptick to go from 50 or 60% of a KPI to hitting them. Because if you think about it, like, if the salespeople are the ones that realize all of the effort of the marketing and get the customer journeys underway and play a big part in retention, even if they're only making the initial sale, that 50 or 40 or 50%, that's the gross margin of most service companies. So that's like whether you're making money or not.
Yeah, that's it. And we combine that where it's not just the AI. So obviously the AI is built with all of our IP that we've gathered over the last, like, especially Louis, over the last 20 years. We combine that. We've spent over the last year building a library of over 5,500 mega prompts. So you can type something quite lame, like write me an email to the CFO, so a really rubbish sort of prompt. And then our product would then select the right playbook to understand, you know, what it is that needs to be done, to then hit the company's playbook to understand who they serve, where they've won, where they've lost deals, to then hit the right prompt, produce a right response. And then it can hit the CRM to understand, okay, you've had 8 interactions with this CFO. They like brevity over long emails. So come back with a short and concise email versus a long one. So then, you know, you think about how much time that would take you to do manually, talking like potentially 30 to 45 minutes, if not more. You now get that back in a minute.
Yes.
I can now spend more time face to face with customers. and I can, potentially hit my goals a lot faster or have less deals in my pipeline in order to hit my goal. So obviously a lot more things to be proven out as we develop and build upon the product and what we want it to do, but it's basically to enable sellers to do what they were hired for, and that's to win more deals for their company.
I think it's really clever. So a lot of this, like one of the foundational systems that you had as part of your coaching community in the first place was Sales OS, right?
Yep.
Sales operating system. So is that largely now built into or baked into what they're getting with their product that they're getting from you with Coach Pilot?
Exactly. So if you look at the Sales OS program, the course, basically what we've done with that led into us writing the B2B sales playbook, which was the book, a physical book that we launched early this year. And that is just one of the 2,000 playbooks that we've got installed into the agent, right? So that's purely based on, building your ICP, prospecting, and closing deals.
Yeah.
But the way that we've built Coach Pilot is that if you need to build more top of funnel, we've got a range of playbooks that the AI will tap into. If your issue is retention and your customer success team need guidance on that, there's a whole library of intel that we've built that in. If it's around moving store deals, because you're great at building top of the funnel, but you struggle with moving them down the pipe, we'll then interrogate your pipe and prescribe you the best next steps on how to move a deal through that. So we just try to go real deep into one problem, which is sales, ignore everything else, and then just go, okay, how can we make this world class? Yeah,
it sounds pretty appealing to me. What are some of the results that you've started seeing in your alpha and beta phases for this?
Well, some of the results we're seeing now is that obviously it's working, that it's hitting the playbook, it's getting the right prompt, it's getting the right playbook. But for us, it's just surprising us where the litmus test is, if I went to Louis and I said, Louis, I need help with this email, would he provide a better response than what we're getting from him? And at the moment, the results we're getting from Coach Pilot are just insane, like just really, really good. It's like, this is great. Typically, when you use AI, you go, okay, not bad, I need to wipe 80% of it and then rewrite it again. Well, here you're probably making a 15 to 20% adjustment based on it. The good thing is the more times you interact with it, the more it learns and becomes better and better, so your input becomes less. So the output at the moment now has been that it's removing the need for Luigi having to go into these companies and coach them on what they should be doing. They're using the tool more. So by Louis having more free time at the moment, that's all sort of our small beta litmus test on tick, it's working. The next one, obviously now, because it's still early days, would be to say, okay, is it reducing the sales cycle? Are the team members hitting their KPI over a 12-month period based on interaction with that? And then part of that as well is that we want to build a mechanism where it can report to the manager saying that, here's what the team are asking, here's their potential gaps, here's some risks that you might have, or you're on quota, you're on target to hit, this quarter's target. So to provide help the managers within these space so they don't have to sort of, pester the sales team. They get, on time coaching and guidance themselves to help them in their role.
This is saving real operational overhead in a business. Like, you think about how many people have got to do these jobs usually.
Well, that's the thing. That's where we're coming in. We've got like Regan. So Regan Barker, one of our co-founders, she leads sales enablement at Grant Thornton, Australia. So we look at, her role. The thing is not about, obviously, we don't want to build this to replace humans, because you obviously need humans in place. It's more, how can we enable them to be a lot more efficient and give them, make AI something that's actually useful for them and not just noise, because they get all these tools thrown at them, call recording and all that sort of stuff. It's there's a lot of good ones out there and there's a lot of dodgy things out there. Now, how can we actually provide real value for these individuals where they don't have to, I won't say work as hard, but they don't have to go into and burn themselves out and work on the weekend in order to get the data that they need to, where AI, if it's set up and prescribed the right way, can deliver that for them. So the good thing is that from Luigi, from a coaching perspective, a lot of crazy IP, and he's coached tens of thousands of sales reps across amazing companies. And Regan, that's living that problem for the last 10 years from a leader herself, it's a great nucleus that, we've got a problem that we really want to solve.
Yeah, I like it. Hey, if you're getting value from these conversations, the best way to support the show is to follow, subscribe, and leave a rating. It helps more people discover the podcast and allows me to keep making these episodes packed with value. Thanks so much in advance. I'm just thinking about a topic you talked about before, like first-time founder, second-time founder.
Yeah.
First time wants to build revenue. Second side wants to build
Second time wants to build
product.
Second time is more focused on distribution and revenue.
Yeah, okay. So that's been your kind of like, tell us more about what you've learned now going into this again. Distribution and revenue, is that the main game for you now?
Look, it's one of those things where, we were told, years ago, MVP, right? Get an MVP out there, try and validate which, most valuable product. Now it's almost like I've seen things out in the marketplace where people talk about most lovable products.
Yeah,
something
okay.
that someone is, really loves.
Oh, you're talking MVP like most valuable, not minimum viable.
Yeah, viable, right? So like what can you get there? But now, because of how fast you can develop, I almost think that MVP is gone.
Yeah.
Because I expect if I'm going to get a tool, if I'm going to use something, it's got to work.
Yeah, I hate it when it's clunky. Yeah. Like all these like AI voice bots now, like I've been looking at them since 22 when they first started coming out, and the latency was crap, the talk over you was crap, and they were only good for one trick. Yeah. Like if you're selling wine or some sort of product, it's off the shelf and it's kind of like if they hang up on you, it doesn't matter, go to the next one. But if you're in any kind of industry where there's a reputation, there's kind of like a service aspect, people could be offended by the way something's said. It's like, there's no way I'm going near this.
No, that's right.
So, how do you take the edges off that?
Yeah, look, again, too, is going back to that MVP thing, like something needs to look amazingly beautiful now. Like great UI, user interface, is just a given, where before, I remember back in Locomote days, it was one of our advantages. Like, I'm a designer by trade. One of our like features was how beautifully designed it was. Now everything's beautiful, right? So like that would be gone if I tried to do that again this year. So it needs to look great. So like all those little MVP things, gone. So it just needs to provide, so like what are the things that we're doing with CoachPilot is like focusing on one really small niche thing within the sales space and making sure it delivers value on that before we start to go wider from that. And then obviously retention and usage. If people are using it, that they're getting value from it and they continue to subscribe. I think living by the month sort of subscription is a good thing because it's like you need to prove yourself every month. Yeah. It's easy to hide behind an annual contract because like, well, you signed for 12 months, I don't care. I'll just, put a lot of effort into the last quarter, last 2 months and making sure you're getting value and schmooze you up and so that you renew. But month by month, you need to prove yourself, right? You get value, you continue on. You don't, cancel the subscription.
Monthly performance review.
It is. It's brutal, right? Yeah. But it's the way that you're building something that's right. Communication from that. How do you communicate what's coming out next to make people stick around and all that sort of stuff? Like it's exciting. Yeah, it's a great space. It's there's so much options out there to move. And like you look at all the chat bots and things, and even AI dialers that are out there. There is thousands of them, right? So if I get a crap result with one, I'm jumping to another next month.
Well, that's probably part of the point here. How do you offset like that thought that people are having that like, if this problem isn't completely solved 100% now, there'll be something else coming up later. And how do you get over that apathy, because there's so much coming through now that people could easily go, hey, sounds good, but I reckon a better thing will be out in 3 months.
Yeah, I guess, look, you need to, if it's something that you want to try or something that it's a problem that it's solving, that you need to obviously give it a go because you can have that thought about everything in every sort of service that you sign up to. It doesn't matter if it's CRM or if it's a call intelligence platform. There's always going to be something better that's coming or something that's, 1 month, ChatGPT is great. Next month, Claude's better, and it's that rat race. It's like you're going to keep context switching all the time. Yeah, it's like select one, and go all in on it. You might have another one on the side for different use cases, but I guess it's more of a bit of a storytelling thing. Yeah, especially in the early days as a founder, you're communicating what it is that you're developing, communicating what it is that's coming out, so then people can see, okay, well, because you look at the alternate of that, if you don't communicate with your users, you're leaving the assumption to them as to, are they doing anything? Yeah. Is this it? Yeah. Where if I on a social listening tool, I'll just use that for example, and I can see that next month, they're going to bring out the ability for me to create a LinkedIn list of just the people who I want to see in my feed. But that's 3 weeks away. Cool, I'll stick on because I want that. Rather than me going searching for that, if that's a problem I'm trying to solve for myself, and then canceling the tool, I now know what's coming out. That's why you see a lot of companies now put out like a public roadmap.
Yeah.
And their customers can vote on what comes out next, and it's open. I'll never forget, like early days, we'd be too scared to show what our roadmap is. I'm not showing you my roadmap, so you can copy it. It's like, well, anyone can build anything, and it's obviously speed. So there need to be other ways that you attract and retain customers. Is it they love the story, they love the brand. What is it that they love? Because product parity is an easy thing to fight on. There needs to be other reasons why someone sticks with you. It's a hard one, right? Like there's no right or wrong and in which way. I guess it's what works for you and what does success look for you. Some people might want to build $1 billion business. Some will be happy with $1 million business, right? And that's success for them.
Well, I'm curious to that. You've had $75 million worth of exits now, and now you're back in.
Yeah, that's not, look, again, people say, they go, oh, but I didn't collect 75 million.
No, I get it, right.
Obviously, other investors and things like that. So, and then the tax man takes their nice chop out of it here in Australia.
They do get a good chop. Oh, man, the amount of exits I've seen where, like, people literally are sizing up the house they're going to buy in Miami, and then they find out that after all the slices, including the tax obligation, that they're almost renting.
Yeah, and you hear amazing stories. Yeah, this company sold for $1 billion. We don't know what the founders have. The founders might get nothing out of it. I've heard stories of where someone that sold for $5 million collected all $5 million.
Yeah,
right? And they're wrapped, right? So
what are you setting your sights on a trigger point this time around? How are you going to know when you're kind of on track? And are you building to exit at some point? Or what are you thinking?
Oh, look, for us right now, look, it's mega early days. Like, if I look as to why I'm doing what I'm doing, I love building. Whether it's building Lego at home with the kids or building a business, I just love building something from scratch. I'll admit, from going from 0 to 1 is bloody brutal. It's that real grind, and you forget about that. I never forget, like when we got Locomote back, we're like, oh my god, like here we go again. It's a grind. I forgot about these days, and we had a product there. So it is a grind, but look, what would success look like at the end? I guess time will tell. Obviously, it needs to provide value to a lot of people. I love to see it to the stage where, obviously, the monetary value, if the company's doing crazy numbers, that means it has a direct correlation to you having a big impact into this space. So, it'd be nice to get it to the stage where it's globally well known. It's supporting tens of thousands of businesses, and whatever the revenue is, the revenue is. But if we can get to that scale of impact, that would be amazing.
It's a nice validation metric for yourself, and it doesn't mean you need everyone else's opinion. It's kind of like, okay, we've got a theory, like you said. We start with a theory, or a thesis, and then structure follows the strategy, right? So you get the theory, you're trying to kill the theory on the whiteboard. No, this looks like a winner. Let's go. Let's go. And then, like, you're interrogating it constantly, but overall, you've still got this sort of roadmap of where you're heading, and it sounds like, to know that you've had the impact you want, it's when you've reached a certain market size, a certain number of customers worldwide. The global recognition sounds like one of those markets for you.
Look, when I say global recognition, it's not an ego thing. It's just more that the brand itself is known, to be delivering value. And then if a salesperson leaves a company and goes into a completely different industry, and all of a sudden that company doesn't have, Coach Pilot, it's like they're saying, guys, you need to get Coach Pilot in. That sort of brand recognition and loyalty is something that I'd love to see, right? Like, I think it's like Harley Davidson has got like some people put tattoos of themselves, right?
Yes.
I'd love to see people go, have a merch store and people want to buy our stuff because they love the brand. Right?
Well, I'll tell you what, on the tattoos, the band that I was in before I got into business, Left to Center hip hop group, I know someone who got the tattoo.
The Harley, tattoo?
Left to Center.
Oh, there you go, right?
But it was my wife.
Still counts. Still
counts.
Right, so that sort of advocacy, like, to have people care that they want to be part of this, sort of, call it a movement, but part of this brand and the journey, that's pretty cool.
I reckon it's really cool. Like, we've got to We talk about these serious things in business, but there's got to be a spark in there somewhere. We're not just building all this and eating glass and staring into the abyss for nothing.
You got to enjoy it. You can go make money working for someone else a lot easier and a lot less stress than what we do as like building a business from ground zero up. Because you're thinking about 4,000 things rather than just being really focused on one because of the nature of not having the personnel, right? So it needs to be bigger than the money that you make.
I think so. If you take away the financial need to work, then what remains is purpose.
Yeah.
But when you need to work financially as well, you want to make sure that the purpose is something that engages you because you're going to be sweating it out.
That's right.
For a long time.
That's it. More times than not, it's tough.
We're reaching lightning round now. It's gone pretty quick here. We've been in the flow zone, baby. So this is quick fire, right? So I start the sentence and you finish it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, this is unlocking your mindset. So let's go with this one to start. It's in your world. Most tech founders fail at sales because
they fear picking up the phone.
Okay, that's a good one. All right. The biggest mistake when hiring your first salesperson is
hiring too fast.
Oh, I wish we had more time to dive into that. You might be coming back on for a guest later. Cold calling in 2025 is
alive and well.
Whoa, I like that. You got to be a little bit more clever to get the phone picked up, though, don't you? Especially with the screening now.
Exactly.
But look, a cold call can be just a one-to-one private outreach of someone's number that's on their website, right?
We spoke about it just before, starting this podcast. The team did a cold block blitz and had 80% pickup rate and got 4 meetings booked. No quicker way to build pipeline.
Oh, man. Hear that, everyone? The phone still works. Founders who outsource sales from day one are
fearful of selling, don't know how to sell, scared to sell their product.
Yeah, so maybe it's a smart move, but maybe it's just something that they've got to just grow a pair.
Yeah, I think to riff off that, you need to have sold the product yourself amazingly well and nailed it before you can outsource it to an internal person or outsource it to a company. Unless you've built it up and sold it yourself, you're not ready.
Yeah, I agree with that. And for the other founders listening to this now, like when you hear something in your head, it sounds perfect. And even when you document it, it sounds perfect. When you show someone the script and the approach and how you're going to close and the models you bring in, they all sound perfect. But until you've actually done that with a real, alive, walking, talking human, then you really don't have any feedback as to how this is going to go.
And one more thing to add on that, the founder has that allure. So you would produce, I'd argue, you would produce more than if you're hiring a salesperson, right? When someone sends an email with the title founder and that the allure, the passion, it comes through. So so long as you can get someone on board that can hit up to 80% of what you could do, you've got a good person, a good person in the business.
Yeah, that's a good metric actually, because 80% and done, 80% and out the door is better than 100% in the drawer.
That's it. Oh, okay.
You can hire a lot more of those 80% if you can manage them.
Exactly.
Okay, so the difference between a $1 million company and a $10 million company is
a lot more. So a lot more people, more headaches.
More headaches. Okay. AI will replace salespeople in
mundane tasks.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's pretty fair.
Bit generic, but yeah.
It's all right. The idea of finishing the sentence, you've finished it straight off the cuff, and that's what we're looking for. Look, we're rounding it out now. We've had a really good chat here. So I suppose what we're looking for here is a bit of wisdom for the other builders out there. You've done 2 now, you're in your 3rd, and I suppose, there's a difference between founders who are constantly hitting sales targets and those that are struggling. There's a difference between a first-time founder and someone that's come back and they've seen that rodeo before. For a founder that's listening and been putting off, building their sales system out because they think they'll just hire someone when it'll get bigger, what should they do tomorrow morning?
Start building out your sales process. Really understand who it is you want to sell to. So build out your ideal customer profile, your buyer persona, and just start. Look, there's no validation better than actually having someone pay for the product or service that you're putting out there. So just if you're scared about it or you've been hesitant because you're in build mode, there's no better way to get over that fear but actually doing it. Right? And if anything, that's going to give you the confidence to go harder, to build faster, to potentially put more money or more time into it because you've gone through the effort of proving it to yourself that someone wants to buy what it is that you're building. So the quicker you can do that and validate that, the more confidence that you're going to have, and the better story and the better allure you're going to have to hire more staff, get more funding, and obviously get more customers on board. So the sooner you do it, the better. And then you'll make the right changes to the product because you're going to get fast and thick feedback based on what you're doing. And there's no better litmus test to someone saying yes or no, and give you some reason as to why, to change the course direction of what it is you're building, right? Rather than you building a product end to end and assuming that it's right because people are saying, yeah, this is great. Like I said, before in our preamble, there's no better validation than someone handing over their credit card details. So it's the more of that you can get, when you're on the right path.
Yeah, that's really sound advice. So I reckon there's going to be a fair few of our listeners and viewers here that are going to want to kind of access a little bit more of what you're doing. So Growth Forum's still 100% running, the coaching community.
Easiest way would be to hit me up on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I've got like a few little nice tiles on there to give you free access to Growth Forum. You can reach out to me for a meeting if you're interested in Copilot, but I'm very active on LinkedIn. So hit me up on there, mention the podcast, and I'll instantly accept your invite.
Oh, I like that. He's going to be monitoring every single one, guys. So so Coach Pilot's what we're looking out for, which is going to be the all-in-one, the IP in there, the AI coaching tailored to your personal business. But to get a feel for it right now, they really want to get on your LinkedIn, jump in the free Growth Forum. It's going to be like, welcome, this is how we do business. And if they want more detail, they can just get you one-on-one.
You get the coaching course, the coaching calls that we do weekly. You get access to the sales program, all of our templates, everything. It's all there for you for nothing.
Absolute gold. Dave, thanks very much for coming on Flow Zone. It's been big value.
Pleasure, mate. This hour's flown by.